Specialized Epic and the Cannondale Scalpel have been two of the best cross-country bikes in the world for over a decade now. Both brands completely revamped their bikes this year, so we decided to put them to the test and see how they stack up against each other. The elephant in the room is that we're talking about $12,000 bikes here, so you'd expect them to be amazing. But these bikes are designed specifically for World Cup level cross-country racing. So it makes sense that both brands spared no expense making their top level bike. However, a lot of the features that we find in these top spec models do trickle down to lower price versions for each brand. So let's take a look at each of these bikes. The Scalpel weighs in at only 22.6 pounds for an extra large, which is really stinking light. The frame got the longer, lower, slacker treatment that's been the trend in modern mountain bike geometry. However, the bike retains Cannondale's proprietary lefty Ocho fork. The Scalpel also has SRAM's XX1 axis group set and NV wheels, bar, and stem. You'd be hard-pressed to find a cross-country racer who'd be sad to toe the starting line on this bike. The Epic also got a full makeover, and like the Scalpel, it is longer, lower, and slacker than its predecessor. And its proprietary suspension system called Brain underwent a complete overhaul that now makes it stiffer off the top, smoother transitions, eliminating most of the knock that the Brain was previously known for. The idea behind the Brain is that it eliminates the need for a lockout. So while you're riding, the suspension is adjusting on the fly between open and closed. So theoretically, for a cross-country bike, that should make for a bike that's really efficient, giving you maximum pedal efficiency on the smooth trails when you need it and open suspension on the rough parts. Our Epic also has SRAM's XX1 axis group set. It has new Revolve Control SL wheels, which are crazy light, and they also have ceramic bearings and bladed spokes. But we also have a Quark power meter, which adds a little bit of weight, but not too much. We're still talking about an extra large cross-country bike that's 22.9 pounds. Both of these bikes are purpose-built machines. They're built for exactly the same thing, which is World Cup level cross-country racing, but they're approaching it from very different angles. So we designed a series of tests to tease out what those differences are. Our first test is simulating the Holeshot. We're gonna do a 100-meter sprint from a standing start on a section of dirt fire road. We're gonna do some technical single track and a fast double track around a field to pit these bikes against each other and hopefully tease out the real differences in how they perform on the trail. Now, it's not a scientific test, but really what we're looking at is perception on the trail, how it feels when you're riding. On the Holeshot, the bikes performed remarkably similar. With the Brain, it was really firm and rigid off the top. There was just enough bumps that the suspension was opening a little bit and gave me a nice smooth pedaling platform. With the Scalpel, the anti-squat really came into play, and even though the suspension was wide open, I still had a really efficient pedaling platform to sprint off the line with. On my way. Fast double track, the bikes were really stinking similar. They both had great small bump compliance, really fast and nimble. There was functionally, from what I could tell at this test, no difference between the two. Out of all of our testing, the one place that we really found a difference between the two bikes was when we got into the woods and hit the single track. We used a technical single track climb that alternated between some smooth segments and some rock gardens. On the rock gardens, the bikes were the same. The suspension was wide open with the Brain and of course open with the Scalpel. The bikes were fantastic. The Epic pulled ahead a little bit on the sections of smooth trail where I really wanted to step on the gas, and that's where the Brain really felt that firm pedaling platform, that greater efficiency. The Cannondale was still great, but the Epic edged it out just a little bit. For two very different bikes that approach the same problem in very different ways, the biggest surprise to me is how similar they were in the real world. We teased out a very small difference, and we're giving the edge to the Epic because of the ability to shift between open and closed suspension on something like a technical single track climb. But when we're talking about small differences, it's important to keep in mind that these bikes were built for World Cup level racing. And in that case, small differences can make a big difference when it comes down to the end of the bike race. The Epic feels very raw and unfiltered. It also handles a little bit tighter on the single track. It's a bike that clearly belongs on a race course. The reach is also 2 centimeters longer than the Scalpel, so it's a better choice for taller riders. The Scalpel has a more refined ride feel to it, and it also has a suspension system that relies on a manual lockout lever to alternate between open and closed suspension. It's equally as capable on the trail, but it also has a softer side that's more comfortable for longer trail rides. So which bike appeals to you? Do you like the lefty Ocho fork and the manual lockout from the Cannondale, or the Brain suspension system from the Epic? Tell us in the comments, and be sure to subscribe for more videos.